Electronic waste in Asia, human and environmental impacts. Electronic waste, also known as e waste, is a major problem in our world today and is currently the fastest growing segment of the world's waste stream. We live in the digital age, and much of our economy and daily lives revolve around electronic products such as computers, televisions, cell phones, and other commonly used electronic devices. For a long time, I, like many consumers, believed that the items that I was separating out to be recycled were being properly taken care of. However, I was very naive. Recently, I learned that a large percentage of those recyclable items don't even end up being recycled and instead are being transported overseas and are causing harm to the people and the environment overall. From 1950 to 2015, a staggering 6.9 billion tons of plastic were thrown out worldwide. Of that, only an estimated 9% has been recycled. Even US companies that have been making promises about reducing waste and promoting recycling are often unaware of where their used products and packaging end up. E waste is all broken, unusable, or outdated electronic devices, components, and materials we get rid of by placing in our garbage bins. Not all e waste is garbage. Certain items can be resold, reused, recycled. We call this e cycled. Who contributes to e waste? Consumers. Yes, everyday people like you and I. Think about how many electronic items we use every day. Now think about how many different generations of iPhone you've had. More than one, right? The increase in quantity of e-waste is because of the increased consumption and the outdated, obsolete items. Consumers discard old computers, phones, and other equipment much faster than before. Why is the e-waste being dumped in Asia? Well, for a few different reasons. Cheap labor wages, availability of unused land, very relaxed laws and regulations on disposal of electronic waste are the major factors. According to the United Nations University, the volume of discarded electronics in East and Southeast Asia jumped almost two-thirds between 2010 and 2015. Due to incomes rising and the high demand for new technology, the average increase in e-waste across all 12 countries and areas analyzed Cambodia, China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Province of China, Thailand, and Vietnam was 63%. And in the 5 years ending in 2015 and totaled 12.3 million tons, a weight of 2.4 times that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Examples of common practices to dispose of e-waste include open burning, which can cause acute and chronic ill effects on the public health and the environment. Backyard recycling is a form of informal recycling, which is a challenge for most developing countries in the region, with a large and burgeoning business of conducting unlicensed and often illegal recycling practices from the backyard. The US and Canada, together with European nations, contribute to almost half of the total e waste generated annually. It's odd that our country has shown very little willingness to develop the necessary infrastructure to deal with it domestically. So, instead, we choose to export our e waste to lesser developed countries and pay the workers very little in terms of wages. The global volume of e waste is expected to grow by 33% in the next 4 years. These are electronic goods made up of hundreds of different materials and that contain many toxic substances like lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and flame retardants. Once these products are tossed into a landfill, the toxic materials seep out into the environment, contaminating land, water, and the air. What are some contributing factors to e waste? Well, one is more gadgets. Innovation in technology is driving the introduction of the new products, particularly in the portable electronics category, such as tablets and wearables like smartwatches. More consumers. In the East and Southeast Asian region, there are industrializing countries with growing populations, but also rapidly expanding middle class, able to afford more gadgets. Another contributing factor to e-waste is that the usage time of gadgets has decreased. E-waste grows as more devices are replaced more rapidly. Import of devices with a battery or a cord provide a greater availability of products, both new and secondhand. However, this also increases e-waste as they reach their end of life. In 2018, China implemented a ban on importing any more e-waste globally. The resulting impact of China's policy to ban e-waste imports has created a giant fracture in the e-waste disposal scale, as China was the leading go-to place for e-waste disposal, receiving close to 70% of the world's e-waste. We can visibly and medically see and understand the negative effects e-waste disposal has on humans and wildlife. At this time, the effects of improper e-waste disposal are not well known. Like the effects that are known have a very real global impact on the Earth's air, water, and soil. But there is hope for getting a handle on the e-waste overflow in Asia, as many countries are either restricting imports of illegal e-waste and or creating new laws that will regulate e-waste disposal. As I mentioned earlier, it has been over a year since China banned the imports of plastics and other materials headed for the nation's recycling processors. That said, the US, among other developed countries, will need to develop better solutions to decrease the amount of waste caused by their consumers. China, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam have all recently adopted e-waste legislation. The four countries are therefore in a transitionary phase with a mix of formal and informal elements and an evolving ecosystem in terms of collection and recycling infrastructure. Japan, Republic of Korea, and Taiwan, a province of China, have a head start in establishing e-waste collection and recycling systems, having begun in the late 90s to adopt and enforce e-waste specific legislation. Instead of focusing on recycling, the focus will need to be shifted to reducing and reusing. To sum up, the issue lies in the short life cycles of new devices, with manufacturers pushing consumers to buy the newest models of their products. Reports show that the average smartphone is only used for 2 years before it gets replaced. Apple, in their environmental responsibility report, concedes that 77% of the carbon footprint of their electronics come from their manufacturer, versus the 17% that comes from its actual use. Therefore, the environmental impact of replacing a device, even if it is recycled after, remains significant. It's crunch time for the Earth, and if we want to ensure our planet's survival, as humans and consumers, we need to be more aware and responsible of how we handle all waste we create. We need to be more conscious about our waste in general, whether it's plastic or electronic. It does damage to the environment in which we live.